Thanks. Thanks. Oh, this is all good, isn't it?
Super.
Some reason,
technology, it's amazing. What would it be without?
Let me just redo this because it's.
Gives you the option.
Okay.
Right,
Thank you.
let's see if we can share it again. Now.
What would it be without?
See if we can share it now. 1 second. It stopped me from sharing on beds before. Let's see if it lets me do it this time. No, it's not allowing me to share. So it's shared it on yours anyway, yeah, Anthony. But it's just not
okay.
allowing me
Cool.
to share it on
Let me look for it. Gives you the option.
Okay.
just pause that. Right then. So now let me see if I can make you host and see if it stops my make host. Right then. So I've changed it to you now to make you host. See if you can now go. See if you can share it live.
So what I do, I watch it on Facebook and switch off the sound.
No, well, no, just I made you host now. So
Is it?
see if you can record it now. So if you can,
I can. It seems to be. Let me see if I can go on.
You should have full abilities. Now.
Wow.
Does it allow you to share it? Hi everybody, by the way, that's watching live on Facebook.
Yeah, let's crack on because.
Does it allow you to share? Because I've never done that before.
It gives me invite links and stuff, but it doesn't give me the option. It says live streaming. I don't know from
the
whose
3
computer
dots.
it's like.
The 3 dots.
Yeah. It's live streaming, but I don't know who. But anyway, we just leave it at that. Let's run with it.
Okay. Do you want to record this as well? Mind you, Neelu's recording anyway, so it's on Facebook anyway. So
I'm trying.
we're good to go then. We've got 10 people watching at the moment.
Wow, great, thank you. So
that's lightning quick.
It is Wednesday, the 28th of July 2020. Sorry, September 2022. I'm Neelu Berry with Andy Devine and Anthony Badaloo, and my brothers are here to help me sort out some issues that I'm going through right now, which I've been going through for many, many years. And Anthony and Andy are keeping tabs on who's doing what over the years and how things are getting better or worse, or how we're closing the net in with the Anthony's doing this illegal bailiff scams. Anthony's chasing the police, various places, the Dun & Bradstreet with the limited companies and the liabilities, professional liabilities of these public servants, and how to get the compensations or for damages, etc., to give the criminal liabilities to the individuals, to get basically we want them to stop doing this so they understand that this is criminal and they can't profit from their crimes against us anymore. We've got various laws. We've got the violation of the oath. We've got Criminal Law Act 1967 Section 4, which is what this is about, which overrides all civil proceedings, because once these public servants have committed trespass, intimidation, alarm, distress, harassment, attempted theft of homes, terrorism against elderly women, against babies, late mothers, against late babies, late mothers, my sister and my niece, their home, this is their home, this is their memorial, and it's got the documents for this Law Commission of India. The 206 report of the 18th Law Commission of India states that any deaths of Indians abroad will be investigated by India, of Indians abroad, because the trust accounts are in Indian central bank accounts of these people that have been murdered abroad, and India will not steal that money. They will investigate the death and find out who's stolen that money. So Anthony's and Andy have hopefully seen the video of the event on Monday, and Anthony's going to take off, and then Andy will add on to whatever Anthony's saying. That's the end of my introduction. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you. Okay, Anthony.
Yeah. So what it is? The bailiffs come to allegedly evict you and take your property on Monday, a couple of days ago. And that's nothing new, Neelu, all along. I'm pretty certain from experience they didn't have a authentic warrant. They might have a piece of paper saying notice of eviction, but a notice is not a thing. A notice is a notice of something else. So where is this something else? Where is the warrant that you're going to execute? So I'm pretty comfortable they don't have a warrant, a legitimate warrant. And if we go back one step behind the warrant, they don't have a legitimate application, because you can't file an application based on a mortgage where you don't have a valid contract. And you never present any accounts to claim money. So therefore, the court case number that they're quoting as the eviction proceedings, I bet it's a Walker Morris, is it?
Yeah.
It has to be a fabricated court case number, because they don't have the material on which a legitimate claim could be made in the court. So just a quick summary, why people need to ask for their case management and all that. They can't give you, and if they give you, it proves it's a fraud. So at the end of all these shenanigans is an industry of big corporations, banks, and you know, bankers stealing property, because in the beginning they never lent you any money. I know people will find it hard to swallow this fact, because I'm an accountant of 30 years standing, and when I had my problems with my bank, and people started to telling me about they don't lend and the promissory note and all this, it actually took me 3 years to ingest it. I know I'm slow, so some people can do it in 3 minutes, but the bottom line is, when you sign the mortgage agreement, it's not a contract, it's an agreement. So they don't have a contract. And that agreement is in the Black's Law Dictionary, the word agreement means promise. So you actually sign it, it's like a check. They actually bank it as cash. And it's your money. They can't charge you interest on it legally. They're doing it illegally. So when it comes to repossessing, they do not have any proof of debt or any proof of contract. So they cannot possibly make a valid claim. So every part of the court proceeding, from the claim to the order to the warrant, the execution of the warrant, the bailiff, every single step of it is fraudulent and made up outside the system. So when they come to you, Neelu, to take your house, what they normally do is they rely on the presence of the police. And once the police come, everything looks legit. All the police does is they say, it's a matter. What the fuck are you doing there if it's a civil matter? Yeah. But they're just there to keep the peace. What they mean by keeping the peace, and I fancy myself as an interpreter, yeah? When they say keep the peace, what they mean is prevent you from defending your property. That's what they mean by keeping the peace.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, I'm an old woman, and I've got 5 men at my door. Yeah, 22 previously at 3 Peel Drive, IG50 Jar. 22 men and women at 6 a.m. with 2 dogs and about 10 vans. That was me by myself and Edward. And you must think to yourself, why are they spending so much resources? They're covering up. So I believe in your Peel Drive thing, they had a helicopter circling. Yep, I had helicopter. How they justify deploying all these public resources, because they're covering up a very big crime. That's why in my case, there was also a helicopter circling, and you see the bailiffs and looking up at the helicopter as if they're saying hello. It's not coincidence. So anyway, to get back on the track. Sorry. What
change in your situation, apart from the fact you've been putting up a gallant fight, which I commend you for, Neelu. You're an inspiration to so many people, is that on this particular occasion, the police did not turn up to assist the bailiffs. And it's a change I've seen in a few cases. And I believe this is a result of the case known as Robert White, where he defended his property and the police tasered him and all these kind of things, and then prosecuted him on top of it. You're prosecuting, you're illegal and you're prosecuting the victim. This is unbelievable. So anyway, his case went through the Crown Court, and the jury found Robert White unanimously not guilty, but also the judgment, they established 4 points. 4 points, and I believe we're seeing this coming, bleeding through into your case now, Neelu, is number one, a police cannot, under any circumstances, assist a bailiff. That's what established in Robert White's case law. It's always been the law, but now it's a case law. It's a modern, fresh, hot off the press case law in the Crown Court. That's higher than all the other courts.
And that was March 2022.
Yeah. And this was a jury trial. So that's number one. Number two, a bailiff, even if they had a authentic warrant issued by the court, by a lawful process, which they don't anyway, but even if, they cannot break in under the law. So no police, no breaking. Number three, I can't remember. Oh, the victim has a right, and this will be music to your ears, Andy, because this is in the case law. The victim has a right to claim on the insurance of the offenders. So that's the bailiff company. If it's a private bailiff, if it's a county court bailiff, obviously that's Ministry of Justice. And if it's a police, then it's the chief constable for the area. So you have an automatic right to claim on the insurance. And I know Andy and George and Baz and all that have been doing some amazing work in this area to claim the insurance, because they got different types of insurance and stuff, but you want the, what's it called, Andy, the personal corporate insurance or something? The higher echelons of the staff in the police and the council, they have a personal insurance over and above the public liability. What's it called again?
On the insurances, I mean, to skip past that, we leave that into their hands. We just sue them, and
Okay,
they can go to their insurance. Then we're not interested. We just stick the bill on them. They can go to their
fair
insurance.
enough. But the case law says you have an automatic right to claim on their insurance. So this is a huge bombshell. Now, you know, the procedure is, the lawful procedure is that if a bailiff gets a warrant, he comes peacefully, try to sort it out, because you could pay him, or you could make a settlement with him to pay in installments, or there could be errors, there could be some problems, and he's duty bound to sort it out. But none of this is happening. So most of the time, I believe that's what happened in your first house. The proper county court bailiff will not even attend, because the paperwork is fraud. They want their pension. They don't want to go to jail. They're responsible people. So most of the time they refuse the work. So what they do, they bring in agents. Now, an enforcement agent is like a debt collector. It's not a proper bailiff. And they have no authority to evict a homeowner or a proper tenant. They can only evict squatters or trespassers. And for that, they still need an authentic writ. To get a writ, you have to have a county court judgment. Then you have to have an application to transfer up the county court judgment to the High Court. So you have to get a transfer up certificate. Then with all that application, you can get a writ, and on the writ it's going to have the certificate number and all these credentials, and the victim is going to be served with the proceedings, because everything that happens in court, you have to be served with the proceedings, because one, you have a right to defend yourself. Two, there's always errors. And three, fraud. So if you haven't been part of any due process, we just have the highway robbers of the Victorian times come back in the form of enforcement agents and police. It's shameful of the police to be routinely coming, not just for house repossession, but for cars, for properties, for anything they can get their hold on.
Even
To be
children.
lying that they have,
Children as well.
and yeah, to be lying that they have a court order and a warrant, and to be getting full support from the most respected police force in the world, the British police, are routinely doing violence and fraud against the public just because the public are not aware and because they've been bullied to do it. A lot of police don't want to do it. You know, I've spoken to police that tell me straight up, this is what, we're just following somebody's telling somebody, and it might be King Charles at the top or Bill Gates, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because there's nothing authentic.
Funny thing is, Anthony, if I can come in here, the phone call I made, so my son has spoken to them through the letterbox. My son has served them with the application to dismiss the claim by Bank of Scotland, trading as Halifax, on 21 grounds, and they got it through the window, and they're reading it, and they still say, we're coming in, we're going to break the door. They're on the phone to the bailiff. Sorry, the locksmith. At this point, I'm on the phone to the police to say, please, and the policeman is saying to me, they cannot break in. They kept saying to my son, open the door. He said, no, I'm not opening the door. I left a notice on the door to say to call my solicitor, the phone number to phone, and also phone Walker Morris LLP, who is the bank solicitor, because of the application for the dismissal of the bank's claim on many grounds. They basically told me there is no way that they're going to break that door, and I'm saying to them, they've just told me they're coming in, they're going to break that door. And I can see that the locksmith is holding the drill in his hand, and I'm panicking now, and the police say they'll come in 60 minutes. 60 minutes. I'm an old lady, I'm not well, this is an emergency. And then I waited 90 minutes, Anthony. I waited 90 minutes. The police never came. That's the problem, is that I could have died of a heart attack. Many people have died. Rita Taylor's mother died soon after they did this to her, about 2013.
So many people. Sandra Joseph.
Just the thought of somebody.
Margaret went to the doctor on her eviction, and the doctor said, you're having palpitations. And this is all illegal people there, and nobody was arrested. They arrested her, actually.
They kidnapped her, didn't they? They locked her away somewhere, waited for the house to be stolen, and then brought her back. Left her stranded somewhere. You're
seeing that gap of time when the police is not coming, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what I believe is going on?
Yeah, go on. I want to know.
They're having dialogue with the bailiffs. How can we move? How can we move forward? How can we justify? You understand? It's not like they're not coming. They are trying to find a workaround. And in your case, they couldn't find a workaround. I believe because you're such a prolific campaigner and you're videoing everything and exposing it. And the Robert White case, we've been banging it on a few cases with the police. Each time we make reference to it in the crime report, the police do not come out. This is a phenomenal break. If we were able to just scale this up and do like 1,000, it would be crazy. So, you know, first of all, well done to you for holding your nerve and getting all the people who support you, Abdul and Sham and your son, and all the people have to stand together, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Because they know they come in there without the police. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like a fish out of water, because their only saving grace is the presence of the police. Or in my case, I'm fully insured. I went to insurance company, said they're not paying me out because there was police and bailiffs there. I said, show me the evidence that there was a bailiff, because if a bailiff don't have an authentic warrant, he's not a bailiff. He's acting outside his jurisdiction. They won't answer nothing, you know, but this is horrible, horrible. We're going through all these times, rough times now, and people being deprived, and it's the family being wrecked. And you know, all crime and fraud and violence, and we're slowly taking back an inch, you know, slowly taking back an inch. You know, we had Toby Lee got his property, nobody's bothering him as far as I know. Mr. Ebert won his case a few years ago in the Harrow Crown Court, but they didn't give him nothing. He got £21, just imagine. But still he won the case. It's there on the record. So we have to progress, and we have to move to the level of getting, you know, remedy. And not only that, people who are doing this serious crime must face a trial by a jury, a financial penalty and all this. They must face a trial, you know. So those are the points that came out of your case. It's a gift and a present to all the victims and their families and the public. It's a precious gift, because it's a small crack of the nut. And hopefully with the Michael Obernish case, now the Robert White case, and people standing on their rights, and I'm very sure there's some people inside the system, some of the police and the constables, the chief constables are saying, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, it's all out. I had a bailiff, I haven't released the video yet. I spoke to a bailiff from Marston's, yeah, just a few days ago. I videoed it. He was telling me, he said, you know, Mr. Badalu, all these court orders coming out of Northampton, he said, did you know they're all fake? This is a Marston's bailiff telling me this. Yeah. And he said, you're the first guy, only guy I know that's questioning these things. It's such a good thing you're doing. This is a bailiff telling me this. Yeah. He said, nobody questions me. I just go around and collect. This is the Marston's bailiff telling me. And I got it on recording. Yeah. So hopefully we're making an impact. Our petition, you know, scambuster.tv, it just crept past 6,000 supporters, just a magic number. And hopefully we will do things to increase the activity. A few people promised me they will help with things. And the video we did, Andy, on the COVID.
Yeah.
On the comments on the change.org on the site, I put a lot of proven cases on the COVID there as a like a repository, and I've sent it to a few people, and I should just read the comment section. It's a repository of case law, facts, scientific facts on the COVID issue. So we're making some progress. I know a lot of people just want a knockout result, and they want an overnight result, which I was in that camp some time ago. But it's a huge crime. The death of the Queen, you know, I was saying the Queen is one of the world's biggest property owners. Can anybody show me a document where the Queen purchased a property? And if she's the head of the state, What example is that setting?
Yeah,
So I'm done now.
Anthony, can I go back? Can I go back a few points you made? That, and I think what Andy was saying earlier before we started, what we need to do is focus on generating these bills, these liability bills on those individuals. And even with Robert White, when there's a prosecution against the victim, then there's a good opportunity for the victim to put in their counter charges.
Yeah,
it works better than if he was to go to the CP and say, can you sue these police?
Yeah.
Say, no, we can't do. So if they sue you and you're in the jury and you're in the courtroom, then you say, look, he can even do this now. He can write to the jury foreman and say, those proceedings, the transcript, please review my counter charges against the police for this. They get the bill attached. Once that bill is generated what he wants and there's a crime, there is no one who can adjust that amount because it's what it's worth to you. When a crime is committed against us by public officers, is Criminal Law Act 1967, Section 4, means we are witnesses to the crime committed by the state. We are witnesses to the violation of their oath in office, because all this time they're pretending they're serving us. All these people are robbing us, stealing our children and homes and cars, are actually killing us. That's the bottom line, is they are violating their oath and they're guilty of treason. Any harm to us, any trespass, intimidation, alarm, distress, and any amount I want, I will get, because nobody can tell me what I'm worth. I decide what I'm worth. And you see, the UCC used to be commercial lien. You seize their assets, you take everything off them, even their clothes, and you put them, banish them with nothing, empty, naked. You know, and the commercial liens was Leviticus was sevenfold, because you're hurt, right? Sevenfold of what you think it should be worth, because the violation of that oath.
Yeah.
So
the Bible somewhere up to 7 times or something.
And so, you know, like you mentioned about the Queen, there's very similarities between the way Patrick Cullinane died and the Queen, because there's a video of Liz Truss when she was 19 saying, abolish the monarchy, abolish the monarchy. Then she goes and meets the Queen, and the next day we hear the Queen died. So, you know, there's something going on. So
maybe she did abolish the Queen.
She did. Yeah, she exactly did. That's the point. That's the thing is also, Anthony, about the Patrick Cullinane parallels. Yeah, we have. You know, he's saying in the media she looked frail and old. I mean, I've never seen a cause of death on any death certificate that says she died because she was frail and old. You know, it's not a medical condition, you know.
That's not a cause of death.
No, and in India,
you're medically qualified.
Let's talk about.
Frail and old is not a cause of death.
Let's talk about how or a possible way or a possible solution, because at the end of the day, to not cause any harm. This is the thing. We're not going to cause any harm, because at the end of the day, it's all about the mens rea. Now, how can we tell whether or not those police were doing what they was doing because they knew what they was doing was wrong? Now, therefore, the fact is we can prove that it was wrong that it was doing, but we can't prove whether they knew it was wrong that it was doing. The point is they are insured. So the policeman himself, obviously through the other maxim, like he who acts through another does the act himself, and therefore holds vicarious liability. So the employee, the employer is responsible for the employee's actions and holds vicarious liability, because he employed him and he did the work that he was told to do, regardless of whether it was or wasn't he was told. Regardless or not, that was down to negligence or whatever you want to call it. Stupid does what stupid does. And they didn't know what they were doing. Now we'll accept the fact that they didn't know, so we're not going to do them criminally. But the thing is, how do we now get that money from them? Well, you make that claim. you put that claim to them, then they now have to, in the same sense as an affidavit, you tell them what they're doing. Refusal, yeah, is their acceptance, because they've now tacitly agreed to you, you know, with acquiescence. You give them a notice before claim stating that, you know, failure to provide the information that's required to substantiate whatever it was they was doing, and which obviously they can't, so they'll ignore that again. Then you give them the bills of exchange. You can give them whatever. I mean, if you give them 30 days then to settle the bill, failing on the 30th day of settling the bill, you then send a statutory demand, and you can also file in a claim from the court. So this is where we're at this point in time. If they fail to pay the statutory demand within 21 days, it should be a straightforward bankruptcy, sealed stamp, job done, because you've built this is where you're building the case. Rather than going into that court, you're going to create your case file. You're going to create your lay of information, so that when that lay of information goes in front of the court, there is no need. It's just a straight summary judgment. It's just a sealed and done. Because they've never answered it. It's in a form, it's a nil-nil deceit judgment that you're motioning the court to do, because that means that they've failed to answer.
So let's apply that. Let's apply that to, say, Robert White.
Robert Robert White. So I mean, on Robert White's case, they took from what I recall of Robert White's case, there was meant to be a sheriff that was sat next to the judge at the time of the hearing. The first day that they said they wasn't going to talk anything about the warrant, they were just going to talk about, which is what they wanted to do before, which was whether or not he used excessive violence in the 1 second. Yeah,
so Anthony, just carrying on. Okay.
Yeah, obviously the sheriff had chat to them. So rather than go on to the logics, which is what Anthony clearly pointed out to everybody, that it wasn't a warrant. So what they did was they said on the warrant, it didn't give the policeman the opportunity to go into the house, and they went on to that side. So therefore he'd broken into the house without authority, so he's to be treated no different than an intruder, and an Englishman's house is his castle, and therefore he could use any reasonable force and above. So that's why he won the case. But they gave a second option on that, because they weren't exposed to the fact that it was all crime in the first place, and they weren't exposed that the court's authority had been counterfeited and it was all fraud, you know, from the beginning. So they opted out on the second option and made out that it was a warrant, and therefore on the warrant it didn't stipulate that they could enter the house, and they did that. So I mean, they're in that point. Then he should have laid that bill. That bill should have been laid for his damages. Yeah, but now he's got the opportunity to take that policeman. Now that policeman who did that, again, his boss is responsible. So this is where I'm saying, like, because everyone's stating the obvious, which is that the Freemasons are controlling all of this. And I was speaking to a guy the other day who isn't a Freemason, who is a policeman, yeah, and he clearly stipulated what he did and what he would do and what should be done. And he was like, no, this is all this. I said, I understand that you are that, because I know what you're talking about, and that's the way it should be. But the point is, obviously, as we've clearly pointed out, and we used to call it the pyramid of terror, yeah, there is a select clique within inside those organizations. And I said, like, you know, if you was a painter and decorator, yeah, your perks for the jobs would you'd be able to get a paintbrush or a tin of paint or whatever. Well, the perks of the jobs with inside the courts and with inside the police and all this lot, they can walk around with these uniforms and pretend to be something that they're not. But when they step out of that, Mark, right, because this is where they then now become criminally chargeable, because now they've pierced the corporate veil. But we're going to stick to it within the corporate veil, because if you're going to take them, you can take it both, but you're going to take them with inside the corporation. Therefore, if the policeman's done it, you're going to take his CEO, which is the chief constable, and the corporation, which, like, say, Nottinghamshire Police or whatever, because that is a corporation itself. Because now you're going to take that corporation, because now that corporation is insured. Failure to do it now, they've got an. From me, I mean, this is the point. If they haven't paid when you've done your process, and I would like to see, and I haven't seen it yet, But whether or not it should, and I can't see how it can fail, because you're using the system against itself. When you've got a complete layer of information which is solid, and it's just a simple application for a summary judgment without a hearing, because there's no need for a hearing. Because
well, wait, Andy, if I can just interrupt you there. So once this matter has been dealt with by a jury and a jury foreman is involved, that's the highest jurisdiction you can go. And because the jury had all the facts and all the evidence that he was the victim, the police turned it around. So this is what they do in this country, in the UK. The problem is there is no procedure for private prosecutions. Every magistrate's court is supposed to have a procedure. When I tried to do a private prosecution regarding my baby niece, all the magistrates' courts, all the Crown courts, they sent it to Westminster Magistrates Court, and they said, this is the only court that deals with private prosecution. And at the time it was Howard Riddle there in charge. And I didn't like the idea that there was only one court dealing with it. So I wasn't going to go and meet him. He said, come and meet me. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll leave it. So until people realize you cannot call a country a democracy if they don't have a procedure of prosecuting public servants via private prosecution. And the CPS always hijack the private prosecutions. You've already had a false prosecution against Robert White. So now all you need to do is write to the jury foreman and say, further to these proceedings, with this transcript that you have to make public, the fact that he was a victim and the police treated him as a criminal. And now we want to put in his counter charges and his claims for the taser, the attempt to kill him while he's a victim. The police attempted to kill him whilst
and we got the mens rea. The mens rea is to steal his house.
But it was to kill him, to steal, to kill him, to steal his
him out
house.
the way.
Okay, I mean that's for a jury and a court.
It's already done.
But the point is, the wrong here is, that they actually went into his house. The court case itself only hears the point. This is why people don't get what they want out of it. And I dare say that Robert White never put his draft order in. He never put a draft order in to what he wanted out of the end of the court hearing. The only order that was going in was being created by the court, by whoever had sent in. Either the prosecution had put a draft order in, what they wanted, or the court created the order itself, but it wasn't told. The court was not told what to the draft order. So I would dare say, I don't know, I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't think, and if Rob White had put a draft order in, he probably hadn't filed it and paid the filing fee for it correctly, for it to have been granted and been fulfilled by the judge. But so again, I don't know those points. But the point is, when you go through a judgment, if they just get a default judgment, like say in a money order, in a money claim, you'll only get, if they ignore it, you'll get, you ignored this default judgment, you now owe this. But let's say if you was going in because you've done this and you've stolen my car or my child or my house or whatever it be, this is where you need to file in, I'm guessing, and I'm only guessing because I've not done it yet, but this is my logic, is that you would file in to motion the judge for a judgment, nil-nil deceit, which is they've not answered, therefore admitted the guilt, and then file a draft order stipulating on that draft order what it is that you want, because this is your hearing, you're taking, it doesn't matter if you're pulled, it's your hearing, it's your court. If you're being dragged to this court, it's yours, you control it, you take control of that court, and you're telling that judge, because he's completely independent, if he's not independent, then it's not a court. And you'll find,
I mean,
it's the CPS and it's the council that are hiring this building. They're not courts. So if we do find a court and you have got a court there which is independent, then it's your court as much as anybody else, because it's independent. It's a 50-50 partnership going on here.
Andy, I'm not sure if you can call it a draft order though, because that is civil proceedings. Criminal proceedings are just date, time, place, witnesses and injury and injured party. Like literally, laying of information is just on such and such a day, 5 men came out my door, 26th of September, threatening to break my door, trespass to cause me alarm, distress, intimidation, And whilst there was an application in contempt of the court, and basically I want, this is an injunction against, first you get an injunction against them to stop them doing this to anybody else. And then you say, you want a criminal prosecution to make sure that they were not imposters, they're impersonating public service. So what do you call that, Anthony, if they come in pretending to be public servants and doing normal things when they're criminals? What's the charge?
Well, they
Impersonation.
outside their jurisdiction. Exceeding their jurisdiction is a polite way to put it. They're exceeding
Impersonation.
So if they're robbers, they've got their outfits, they've got the fancy dress, but they're actually robbers dressed as public servants, aren't they? They think that they're
It's impersonation, yeah. It's impersonation. Because
impersonation.
It's the same as like a judge.
I remember it's called abuse of public office, embezzlement of public money, abuse of power, and treason. That's what my Dr. Akina.
There are many names. There are so many things you could, properly classify as. But the bottom line is crime.
Fake.
Yeah.
Fake.
Serious, hard, violent crime. Because
criminals.
you see, someone trying to break your door and to force you out, take your belongings. Isn't that that's hardcore violence, no?
Especially, Anthony, as you say, they never gave you any money in the first place. They stole your money and made you pay interest.
That's where it leads back to. That's why they're making so much out of this. They can infiltrate the police, the court. There was a publication in the Independent, their own paper, which is on the write-up of the petition. The link is there. It says the court's been infiltrated by mafia, which is the bankers, and their agents and sub-agents and illegal enforcement.
Right there.
All these enforcement agents saying they have writs. So there's so much going on. But just coming back quickly to the warrant and the criminal trial, in the Robert White case, they didn't. All that needed to happen is for the jury to say, well, this is not a warrant. You're all effing guilty. Go to jail. Now, we had a case Christy Morris had the case when he was helping Rika Patel and all this. They said he was obstructing the bailiff. Again, it's enforcement agents. They were not proper bailiffs. And he went through his trial, and to my knowledge, he didn't make that his only argument. This is not a valid writ. It's not a warrant. That's all he had to do. Now, also, Neelu, in the law, they have the saying or the maxim or whatever, fraud vitiates all. So let's say the bank had a legitimate claim on you and a legitimate everything, legitimate court proceeding. Now they turned up without a warrant. Yeah. That claim is dead. The claim is automatically dead. Yeah.
It's true, it's dead.
So this is the argument to pursue. Where is the warrant? The warrant means the queen has declared or the king has declared war on you. So if you lied that you had a warrant, your claim is dead. Just pay my cost and compensation. Now, I'm just coming back to the warrant issue because that's the one I love. Yeah. The amount of fake warrants being executed right now during this conversation, how many babies being disturbed with the moms dealing with an illegal bailiff saying he had a warrant on his iPad. That's what's maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000 right this minute here. Just now, there's a client, one of my clients called Hezron Johnson. His neighbor came to help him in his illegal eviction.
Oh, yeah.
And they said he was obstructing the police and he assaulted the police in their duty. So
that's not Winston. No, we're not talking about Winston Leachman, are we? No.
Hezron Johnson.
I think Winston Leachman was involved there.
He went after.
Oh, okay.
But in the beginning, he got a regular bar association barrister, but not him, the lady. his neighbor. They argued it's a fake warrant. So she won the case. The way the court says a fake warrant, so police had no business there, or they should have arrested the other people. Now, what happened now? Hezron thought he was going to get his house back because the magistrate court declared that the warrant was, counterfeit. Imagine counterfeiting a warrant, a court warrant, and you got established in the magistrate court that this is a fact. Nobody got arrested, nobody got jailed. It's 7 years jail, automatic. Then Hezron thought he's going to win everything. He was there with his children, his elderly parents, all that thrown on the street. He got a surprise letter from the barrister. There, Mr. Johnson, I am writing to inform you that I will not be taking on any other cases on the warrant. So someone slapped his wrist. This is a no-go area. And that is why you will never find a solicitor ever, neither Edward Ellis nor anybody else. Your beloved Edward Ellis, a former solicitor, that will take on a case on the procedure, like it's a fake claim or the warrant is fake. It's not happening. We have not seen it. So this guy put it in black and white. It's the first, when I was pressuring my lawyer, when I was in jail and all this, get me the prosecution, get me this, get me the court proceeding. After 4 attempts, he wrote me a letter. He says, I cannot assist you because I'm professionally embarrassed. So nobody, I think there is some kind of rule or some kind of unwritten rule that if you go here, something bad is going to happen to you.
Yeah, so Anthony, that is actually the point at which people are murdered, because the money that's out there to pay for people to stop this going out, what we've put out about the ledger, this is the thing that they're terrified of the most. What
How can you file a
described,
claim for money? You don't file a ledger, the accounting ledger.
there is no ledger.
So it must be you done a fabricated case, because the person in the court cannot process this application if you don't have the evidence to support what you're claiming. So it has to be a fabricated case, and that's why.
Anthony, I do want to make public one thing, that in 2000, when I sold my previous home, there was a scandal about mortgages. So solicitors' firms had run off with the entire mortgage. There was about maybe 30 sales and about £15 million was laundered. They used that as an excuse to shut down all conveyancing solicitors that were not not corruptible. So by that time, by 2000, all honorable conveyancing solicitors were replaced by criminals. And now recently we've had the estate agents, the whole thing about the Halifax Bank of Scotland HBOS cases of these 110 estate agents. They took out all the estate agents in the whole of England between up to that prosecution in 2018. There are no non-criminal estate agents in England anymore. They're all part of this network. So you've got the banks, you've got the courts, you've got the councils, now you've got the solicitors, and you've got the estate agents. What's left, Anthony? What's left in the structure of filling houses?
Everybody under there.
And let me add, Anthony, that the case you mentioned, I think, was processed in the Romford County Court, where they stole my previous house and they're trying to steal my late sister's house. And Winston Leachman was having a firearms license given to him by Sussex police, who had stolen John Hoth's farm. If you type in John Hoth in speech marks and you type in Winston Leachman in speech marks, you will find the information about the warrant, the firearms license given to Winston Leachman, who'd spent his entire life between the age of 16 and 40 in jail for mortgage frauds. He's an expert. He came out of prison. He hasn't been in since 2005, hasn't been back in prison, but he's able to come to people's repossessions and take cash, and basically got the firearms license and firearms to occupy an office in the Romford County Court, impersonating an immigration lawyer. So he's bringing in people from abroad to put in these houses that they steal, to make them foster parents, to steal these children and put them with the foster parents to give them the soft look. These are criminals from abroad, from the prisons. So not only do they train criminals, because when Winston Leachman came out of prison, he ran the Kent Freedom Movement, which is what programmed people into believing that they needed to sign off their trust funds. And this was
it's deep, but very, Neelu, I came up on the conclusion some years ago that it's such a big issue. But if I focus on the court procedure, that's something within my control and which I can prove. All these other things will collapse automatically because they cannot do nothing unless they say they have a court order or a false court order. So, and all it takes, you ask Walker Morris, yeah? Can you give me a copy of the receipt you paid for the fee, for the court fee to get this case going? Have they supplied?
That's a good question. They say they have a solicitor by the name of Ellen McLean dealing with it.
I'm not interested in nothing.
She does not exist. She does not even exist. There's no liability because it's fake.
That's why I always say we write to the CEO or the senior partner. All I want is a hard copy of the authentic receipt that you, for the fee that you paid to the court.
That's the problem, Anthony.
Because you see, they cannot pay a fee on a false case because this case is going outside the system.
Okay. So Anthony was saying about, getting the people at the top. If you go on Walker Morris LLP on Companies House, there is no address. There is no CEO. They've got only 50 odd directors. That's it. And you don't know which one.
What you do, Neelu, to dig out the one that you target, you go on the Law Society website or SRA, Solicitors Regulation Authority website. You look up the firm, and the registration of the firm will have a named individual and his email address, and you target him. Because you have to target a man. You understand? Because a corporation is our imagination. It's not a person that you can deal with. You have to target somebody. You can't write to 50 people.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Anthony. It's Ellen McLean, and they say I'm not sure. He says, Callum Davies says, I'm not sure if she's on annual leave. Every time I phone, I'm not sure if she's on annual leave.
I'm not sure, and that's why you gotta do. You call them and do a live stream on Facebook. Let them tell you live. Let the public wake up, because we're just getting papers and then violence. Papers, counterfeit paper and then violence. How can you build up a life and a family and do some good things in the world when you have illegal? Look, I'm just going to show you something. This is all people saying they were just on me alone. Somebody said they have an arrest warrant. Somebody called Cedar Group. I just went on holiday abroad, and normally they would stop you at the airport if there's a warrant. I wrote to them. I said, "Give me the warrant. I give you the money." They can't produce. So how can you have to be a superhuman or lucky or lucky for a little period of time until they decide to target you. But any asset you have or is an asset to them, or you want to leave some inheritance to your children that you sacrifice and work for, they want it. And it's simple how they take it. We got a court order. Court order my ass.
I think just
Are we done?
mass
Shall we
exodus,
wind down?
mass exodus out of England, Anthony, is the only solution for intelligent professionals. We come and join Andy in Greece, or we go to Indonesia, or I don't know where to go. Honestly, I've had enough. Honestly,
The Queen is everywhere, so she's waiting for you.
well, don't forget the Vatican, Anthony. Don't forget the satanic structures that
They're
nothing.
all of them. All of them. I will just keep repeating. I sound like a broken record.
Well, sorry, actually,
Yeah.
Anthony, Andy's given me an eye opener with the link with the Queen having a twin. So there's Queen Elizabeth and Lilibeth. The thing about that, Andy, is that you had the two twins, right? But the funny thing is, they said that Lilibeth became the Queen of England, but she decided to use the name of Elizabeth. But Elizabeth was the secret queen, but they swapped the names. So I wonder, because it was cesarean section, so the mum was knocked out, and there still is there is still an older one, and whether the older one had the name that went to America.
The only thing I can tell you, there was something in the papers.
The hostage
in the main
queen.
Yeah, sorry. Something in the
There's no
mainstream
difference
media.
either way if you take it back to the true lineage. The line's been cracked and it's been broken. They split the line.
But this is forced adoption of royals, Andy. That's what I've been saying for about 400 years ago. They've been stealing royals. That's what they've been doing. That's what they're good at. I say the Vatican and the satanic structure, they know your DNA, they know your royalty, and they will steal your children because they are royal. And they do the Heath test, that when the child is born, they prick the heel, they get the blood test, they do the Heath test, and they know how royal you are and which royal you belong to. And we are the female bloodlines that are outside the corporate structure, and we are more royal than the ones that are within the corporate structure, because that's what's been adulterated by the male who are satanic, 100% satanic. So we're outside, are 100% royal, and 50% of us inside the corporate structure are also our brothers and sisters. So that's the problem we have. 75% of us are with God, and 25% of the evil are at the top of the corporate structure, are the satanic DNA. That's the problem.
Can I just say something quickly? I know it's totally outside the topic, but I'm just saying it because it's funny. Apparently they got a new drug they want to inject in you so that they can scan you to see if you had the vaccination. And Andy, do you know what this drug is called?
Cool.
It's called luciferase.
Yeah, it's in all of it, isn't it?
So that's the next thing they're going to come with as a
Anthony,
vaccine
you have to
passport.
stop. I cannot even use that word. If I told you what is really going on, Anthony, that is not even scratching the surface of the tip of the
But
iceberg.
let's keep this conversation to your warrant and your eviction. I think we've done it very good justice.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you, brothers, for doing this for me this morning at short notice.
We're inspiring people to fight back, and Neelu, you could use this video in your case. It's done.
Thank you.
But
Anthony.
Thank you very much.
Just want to add, Anthony is a professional accountant. You cannot find a more thorough investigative accountant in the world, apart from Anthony Badaloo, and he has got a forensic eye for corruption. That's what's amazing about him. And
let's try and live up to that.
An impeccable memory.
Okay. Andy, have a nice lunch.
Thanks a lot.
God bless you all.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Bye.